Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Man, it's almost a little chilly this morning. I mean, compared to what we've been having, we're down in the 50s. I could even see my breath this morning. We haven't had that kind of weather in quite a while, even overnight. So it's definitely an enjoyment to have, but it's not going to be long-lived because we're supposed to be up in the 90s by this weekend. And summer temperatures will be on, I'd say, at that point. Oh, goodness. There's so much stuff going on. You know, yesterday, Russian warships got within 65 miles of the Florida coastline. They went to Cuba, and now they're docked there and on their way. They made it a point to get really close to the United States, about as close as they could get. And, of course, it does have the U.S. military on edge a little bit. They were following them and tracking them as they should. But this is heating up, folks. This is heating up. I mean, when we've got Russian military that close, just a few weeks back, they were off the west coast of California. And now they're just a few miles away from Florida. And who knows what they'll be doing down there. The New York Fed says that there's a 50-50 chance now that we will hit a hard recession over the next 12 months. JP Morgan is warning of a stock market shock, that things have been going good and it's about ready to take a big downturn. And there's a lot of stuff going on in that kind of financial market area that doesn't look good. There's been warning bells. This is crazy that this is in the news yesterday because I've been talking about it for 2 years. But there was warning bells, an article, at least that's what they were saying on Bloomberg, talking about how China now controls the vast majority of the world's resources. This is bad. People need to wake up. They've been hoarding resources and they've been gaining control of mines and wells and all kinds of stuff over the last few years. And this is a big problem. Really? I've been telling people that for a long time. The big news, though, I would say, is what's going on in Europe. And I'm not talking about necessarily the war, and I'm not even talking about the massive breakdown of their society due to illegals, although that is related to it. Over the last few weeks and months, there's been different elections throughout Europe, and several European countries have voted in far right-leaning people. France's President Macron, he's shut down the parliament because they voted in overwhelmingly this conservative parliament. And he basically said, all right, we'll shut it down, go home. We're going to elect a new one. Prime ministers have been resigning because their far left and far right people have been getting into office and taking over. And a lot of people here in the United States are praising this as this kind of conservative revolution that's happening in Europe, and that hopefully by November, the same thing is going to happen here in the United States. So I want to talk about that. Well, since the thing happened in France, Antifa, some of the Muslims and other far left groups in France have been rioting. And I'm talking, they've been burning cities to the ground pretty much. I mean, the news is reporting that France is on the verge of a civil war. They've actually been going to businesses and homes of people that are conservative and trying to break in and drag them out of their homes and violently assault them. And so there's a lot of turmoil right now in Europe. Because it does appear on the surface that conservatives are starting to gain their control back over several European countries. So is that going to happen here? I mean, is that the plan for Trump to get into office, only for there to be a justification of a civil war, of riots, of violence? I mean, a lot of us have said that already. That's something that we've all talked about, of a plan to, well, you know, Trump will get into office and then they're going to try to burn the cities to the ground even worse than before. But before we go down that path, I want you to just stop and think for a minute. In Europe and in the United States especially, over the last few years, the far left, the globalists, the Marxists, they have proven that they have the ability to do what they want. They have the ability to take over elections. They have the ability to start pandemics. They have the ability to start violence and to open borders and to encourage people to come into countries, to cause massive disruptions and violence. All of this we've seen happen, right? And all the while that's been going on, the far left has been progressively pushing their agenda and getting themselves further down, deeper into their plans, right? And then the elections show up this year in many places, including the United States, and you're going to make me believe that all of this power, I mean, the left's in power, and they've shown how they get into power, and they show how the abilities that they have to disrupt and control things, and they're not going to do any of those things, and they're going to allow the conservatives to just come in and take over and ruin their plans. They're not going to do anything to stop it. I mean, we've not seen anything yet anyways. I understand we're still a ways out, but Europe didn't see anything of them trying to stop using all means necessary. I mean, they used all means necessary the last election, and they're not going to use all means necessary this election to stay in power. Maybe I'm too much of a cynic, but it makes me think that it's all part of their plan to allow conservatives to get into power. So then things can really start ramping up and falling apart. I could be wrong, but it's something we need to consider before we get too excited that, there's this conservative wave coming through and everything's going to be back to normal before too long. I think that gives people false hope, and it causes people to be unprepared. And again, maybe I'm just too negative. Maybe I'm just this pessimist, and I'm always seeing the negative. I don't consider myself that kind of person. I actually consider myself a very positive person, but I'm also a realist. And when I see that these globalists have the capability of what they've shown over the last few years to do, and then a massive important election cycle is happening, and they're not going to use any of those powers, any of that authority, any of those tricks to stay in power. They're going to basically set back and allow the elections in Europe and then possibly here in the United States happen normally, really, and people are going to fall for that. There's hard times coming, okay? There's wars, probably drafts. Yes, you should probably start preparing yourself and your family for that, because if things heat up between us and Russia and China, or either or, we're going to have to reinstate the draft. Germany's already done it this past week. We're already seeing lots of violence in the city streets of America, many city streets. We're seeing just the general degradation of society because of lack of morality, influx of third world country illegals, and really turning their backs on God. I mean, in the end, that's the key thing. And all of this stuff that's happening, all of this chaos, all of this progressive moving to the left, and an election cycle is about ready to start really kicking off. And we're going to believe that everything's just going to happen like normal, and Trump's going to get back into office, and it's all going to be kumbaya and everything will be fine. They stopped it from happening before, but yet they're not going to stop it from happening now. Folks, wake up. Wake up. I mean, either they're going to cause so much disruption, so many problems, another pandemic, or whatever needs to happen to stop the election or to alter the election. Or if the election happens fairly, somewhat normally, and Trump gets elected, then got to start wondering if that was all part of the plan also. Europe is usually just ahead of us on a lot of things. They were through economic problems. They've been that way through the pandemic. And if what we're seeing in Europe is any kind of glimpse of what might happen here in the United States, we need to wake up. You should get online, look up what's going on in France right now. And that's the kind of stuff, but probably a lot worse, that's going to be happening here in the United States. Because there are millions, there are tens of millions of illegals in this country, and we have no clue of knowing how many of those are here to purposely do harm and to disrupt. They're not here just to get a job and to take care of their family. How many of them are here to actually do harm? We need to be waking up, folks, paying attention to this kind of stuff, because it's happening in real time, and there's not a lot of time left before certain events take place that we know for a fact are a big deal, that we know are going to change and alter the path. This is not a time to be just ignoring things. This is not a time to, oh, well, this is bad, can't do nothing about it, just going to turn the TV back on. This is a time to wake up and get ready. You need to be prepping, stocking up. I know money's tight. Trust me, money is real tight for our family right now. You know, it is. There's a lot of things. The YouTube has been demonetizing tons of my stuff. It is. So I get it. I completely get it. We have to do the best that we can to be stocking up. We have to do the best that we can of just prepping our home, our homestead, whatever the projects that you need to get done. You need to, you know, I know how it is. You always have these ideas, these plans, you know, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to put this, you know, hydro generator in. We're going to put this, you know, sawmill in, or we're going to build this rain catchment system. Whatever it is, you need to be working on that. And you need to be preparing your family, not scaring them, but having conversations with them, talking to them about the stuff that's going on and how it could change everything, and what you as a family need to be doing or need to do if things do get worse. Because they are getting worse constantly, every day. That's not seeing the negative, that's seeing the truth. And our reaction to that should not be fear. It should not be desperation and hopelessness and all of these things. It should be motivation. Our reaction should be, all right, it's time to get up, put my pants on, lace my boots up, and get going and get serious and get things done. Because at least for a good while, I'd say, it's only going to get worse from here. And that's what we have to prepare for, even though we may not know the details of it. Just general preparedness is the key right now. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order and to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.